Okay, first thing right at the top here. How do you pronounce this? We've seen Ristar, Ristar, Ristar. It's a conundrum for sure, to the point where even Sega themselves, as developer and publisher, never settled on a pronunciation. I'm going with Ristar. Fight amongst yourselves about it. Anyway, it's always exciting to revisit games from late in the console's life cycle, to see how they achieve things on aging hardware that no one thought possible. The Sega Genesis had its fair share of impressive titles from its twilight years, and Ristar is one such gem. The entire game revolves around you, the celestial son of a shooting star, rescuing your father and an enslaved populace by using your very, very stretchy arms. As mechanics go, it's about as simple as you can imagine. Ristar jumps, Ristar grabs, and that's about it. No upgradable abilities, no combat or combo system, not even power-ups. It's very simple from a gameplay perspective, but it manages to wring a fair bit of level and obstacle variety out of these basics. The game is generally slower paced and less action-heavy than most of its peers, instead relying on technical prowess for mobility and exploration. You have to condition yourself a little bit to treat your arms as both a navigation tool and weapons, but once you get the hang of it, there's a lot of fun to be had. In a more modern context, it might not even be that foreign of an idea. If I had a nickel for every time Sega released a mascot platformer with stretchy arms used for both traversal and combat, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? The game is at its best when it's using these stretchy arms to facilitate creative navigation and level interaction, and how much that mechanic is used often dictates how fun a level is. Flying off of grab handles and climbing around are consistently great, for example, while babysitting an item and keeping traps at bay maybe aren't as interesting. Mastering grabbing in 8 directions can lead to lots of fun traversal opportunities, and it's very satisfying to pull off a tricky series of swings or nail that shot on an enemy from directly above them. It strikes a pretty good balance, catering to those who like a more precise, technical platformer while not being so demanding as to scare away younger or more casual players. That's to say nothing of the presentation, which is absolutely top shelf. It's not a stretch to call this one of the best looking games on the Genesis because the graphical work is stellar. Art and backgrounds and stages are incredibly colorful and remarkably detailed, with some really good-looking lighting effects early on. Worlds transitioning via flying from planet to planet is a nice touch, and Ristar has lots of specific animations when interacting with the environment. His little voice clips are cute, and the soundtrack is really solid overall. While maybe not among the absolute best on the console, there's some certified bangers throughout, many of which you're hearing in the background here. Those appealing sounds and visuals help distract from some of the game's shortcomings. It's not a particularly long experience. 6 worlds with 2 levels and a boss apiece, excluding the plethora of bonus stages that push the mechanics in more challenging ways. In the era of Sonic 3 and Knuckles and the rapidly expanding scope of these kinds of titles, it's fair to see Ristar as maybe a bit short for its time. The game does beef things up a little bit with unlockables like harder difficulties, time attack, and a boss rush, but a desire for a little more meat on the bone here isn't that crazy, especially considering how good that meat really is. It's gamey. Because it's a game. I just thought of that. There's some nitpicks in the general gameplay as well. You can't see where checkpoints are, at least not that we could see, and it can be frustrating to die and be surprised by how far back you're sent, especially in levels where the difficulty spikes or a leap of faith results in a death you couldn't possibly see coming. Those difficulty spikes are important to note because it gets pretty hard by the end. The game can also be very punishing if you try to move through stages too quickly, so if you're not fully on board with the slower pace, it's just not always possible to speed things up. None of this dulls too much of Ristar's shine, though. Most of that was done by Sega themselves. The Saturn launched in North America just 3 months after Ristar's release, so the company gave it next to no marketing and the game never really stood a chance. It's a shame, too, because nitpicks aside, it is a very pretty and well-made platformer. It's easy to see how the stretchy arms gimmick could be expanded via more advanced traversal mechanics and more interaction variety per stage. There's still a lot of potential in the concept, and maybe we'll see someone capitalize on it. Someday. So when you put it all together, Ristar gets 4 Gloobies out of 5. It doesn't break the mold or do anything incredibly innovative, but it is yet another example of the depth and quality that the Genesis library delivered on, even well into its final years and months. Thanks so much for watching. Stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll catch you back here real soon.